Alas, memoir bearer, Kaelen's peaceful life shatters when he discovers an ancient relic that drags him into nightmares not his own. Bound by a dark oath, he must confront a violent past to prevent history from repeating itself. Part 1. The Whispering Stone. Kaelen, a man in his early 30s, lean and observant, with the quiet solitude of someone who spent more time with trees than people, moved through the forbidden forest with practiced ease. His role as a guard was less about policing and more about observation, a silent sentinel, protecting the ancient, sprawling woods that bordered his village. The forbidden forest was not merely a name, it was a reputation, whispered in hushed tones, a place of ancient secrets and subtle dangers that most villagers knew to avoid. Its towering, gnarled trees seemed to lean in, their branches weaving a dense canopy that perpetually held the forest floor in a state of twilight, even at midday. Strange flora bloomed in hidden glades, and the air often carried a faint, earthy scent, mixed with something indefinable, something ancient. Kaelen, however, felt a strange kinship with its quiet mysteries, his senses honed by years of solitary patrols. On this particular afternoon, as he navigated a rarely trodden path near the forest's oldest section, his boot nudged against something unusually hard beneath a thick layer of moss and fallen leaves. He paused, curiosity piquing his interest. Clearing away the debris, he uncovered it, a stone tablet, unlike anything he had ever seen. It was roughly the size of his forearm, dark gray, and etched with symbols that seemed to writhe and intertwine, alien to any script he knew. What truly caught his attention, however, was the faint, almost imperceptible glow emanating from its surface, a soft, internal luminescence that pulsed with a rhythm he couldn't quite decipher. It hummed with an ancient energy, a silent whisper that seemed to beckon him. Most would have left such an object untouched, wary of the forest's reputation. But Kaelen, driven by a simple, unadulterated curiosity rather than any malicious intent, decided to bring it home. He wrapped it carefully in a piece of cloth, tucking it into his satchel, convinced it was merely an interesting if peculiar relic. That night, the tablet lay on a small table beside his bed, its faint glow casting dancing shadows on his humble cabin walls. Kaelen drifted into sleep, a sleep that quickly became anything but peaceful. His dreams, usually mundane reflections of his daily patrols, were invaded by vivid, terrifying visions. He was in a place he didn't recognize, a crumbling, ancient temple, its stone pillars broken, its altars stained. But it was he who was there, or rather, a version of himself, wielding a weapon he didn't own, his hands stained with something dark, his body moving with a brutal, practiced efficiency that was utterly alien to his gentle nature. He saw faces distorted by fear and pain, and felt the sickening thud of impact, the desperate cries that were his own, yet not his own. Chaos reigned around him. Shadows writhed, and a sense of profound, unspeakable violence permeated every fiber of the dream. He was killing in this ancient, desolate place, and the horror of it was visceral, terrifyingly real. Kaelen woke with a gasp, bolting upright in his bed, his body slick with a cold sweat. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the oppressive silence of his cabin. The images from the dream clung to him, vivid and nauseating. He looked around, disoriented, his eyes darting to the tablet, which seemed to pulse with a slightly brighter glow in the darkness. He tried to shake off the nightmare, to convince himself it was just a particularly vivid figment of his imagination, a consequence of his unusual find. but the feeling of having committed such acts, the chilling sensation of violence, lingered, leaving him profoundly shaken and utterly confused. The whispering stone, it seemed, had already begun to claim him. Part 2. The Echoing Nightmares. The terrifying dreams, far from being a one-time occurrence, became a relentless nightly invasion, each one more vivid and disturbing than the last. Kaelen's sleep, once a sanctuary, was now a battleground where he relived the same horrific scenes in the crumbling ancient temple. The details sharpened with each passing night, the specific patterns on the temple's cracked pillars, the eerie glow of strange symbols etched into the altars, and most terrifyingly, the faces of those he was killing. Not just indistinct figures, but individuals whose terror was chillingly real. Exhaustion became his constant companion, his eyes heavy-lidded, his movements sluggish, his fear a cold knot in his stomach that never truly loosened. He knew, with a growing certainty that chilled him to the bone, that the stone tablet was the source of his torment. Desperate to break free from this nightly curse, Kaelen tried everything he could think of to rid himself of the ominous relic. He first attempted to bury it deep in the forest, digging a hole beneath the roots of an ancient oak, convinced that the earth itself would absorb its malevolent energy. Yet, when he returned to his cabin the next morning, the tablet lay innocently on his bedside table, its faint glow mocking his efforts. He then carried it to the swift-flowing river that bordered the village, throwing it with all his might into the deepest part of the current, watching it sink beneath the churning water. But once again, he woke to find it resting beside him, as if it had never left. The tablet, it seemed, refused to be discarded, clinging to him with an unseen, unbreakable bond. His sanity began to fray. The line between dream and reality blurred, and he found himself flinching at shadows, hearing phantom cries in the quiet of his cabin. The villagers, noticing his gaunt appearance and haunted eyes, began to give him a wide berth, whispering about the strangeness that had come over the forbidden forest guard. With no other recourse, and a desperate hope flickering within him, Kaelen made a decision that many would consider foolish. He would seek out Lyra. Lyra, a woman in her 60s, was a reclusive elder who lived on the outskirts of the village. She was known among the villagers as a keeper of forgotten lore, a woman whose knowledge of ancient history and magic was both respected and feared. Her wisdom was undeniable, but her methods were often unsettling, and her presence alone was enough to make most villagers uneasy. Despite the apprehension, Kaelen knew she was his only hope, the only one who might understand the whispering stone and the echoing nightmares it had brought into his life. Part 3. The Oath of the Dark Age. Kaelen found Lyra in her small, secluded cottage, nestled deep within a thicket of gnarled, ancient trees, its windows obscured by hanging herbs and strange, shimmering beads. The air inside was heavy with the scent of dried plants and something else, something metallic and ancient. He laid the glowing tablet on her worn wooden table, and Lyra, her eyes sharp and knowing, immediately recognized it. Her face, usually serene, blanched with a visible dread, her gaze fixed on the pulsating stone. "The oath," she whispered, her voice barely audible, a sound of profound reverence and terror, a fragment of it. She then began to unravel the tablet's true, terrifying nature, her words painting a chilling picture of a forgotten past. This was no mere relic, she explained, but a piece of the oath, an ancient artifact from a dark age long erased from common history. It was a time of immense conflict and unspeakable rituals, and the oath bound its bearer to a violent, ritualistic role within a specific cursed temple. Lyra revealed that the dreams plaguing Kaelen were not just nightmares, but forced memories, visions of a past he was being compelled to relive, and terrifyingly, obligations being forced upon him by the oath itself. "You are becoming the last memoir bearer," she stated, her voice grave, her eyes piercing Kaelin's. This title, she explained, meant he was destined not just to witness, but to potentially fulfill a terrible past, to become a conduit for ancient violence. Kaelen listened, his initial fear escalating into profound shock and terror. The magnitude of what he had stumbled upon, the horrifying destiny that had unknowingly claimed him, made his humble life as a forest guard seem like a distant, impossible dream. His life was no longer his own. It was bound to this ancient, malevolent artifact. Lyra, sensing his despair, then laid out the impossible choice before him. "You can try to run, Kaelen," she warned, her voice heavy with the weight of forgotten consequences. "But the oath has chosen you. Its pull will follow. Or," she continued, her gaze unwavering, "you can face it, embrace your role, understand the ancient violence, and perhaps, just perhaps, prevent a new cataclysm from engulfing our world." The air in the small cottage crackled with the terrible implications of her words, leaving Kaelen suspended between an agonizing flight and a terrifying, world-altering fight. Part 4. The Slight or the Fight. Overwhelmed by Lyra's revelation, a cold dread seizing his very soul, Kaelen was torn. The impossible choice Lyra had laid before him echoed in his mind. Flee and risk unknown, perhaps worse, consequences, or face the ancient oath, a destiny of violence he never asked for. His first instinct, a primal urge for self-preservation, screamed at him to run. He packed a small bag, grabbed what little coin he had, and, under the cover of pre-dawn darkness, attempted to slip away from the village. He chose a path that avoided the forbidden forest, hoping to put as much distance as possible between himself and the cursed tablet. But the oath, as Lyra had warned, had truly chosen him. As he walked, the tablet, still tucked in his satchel, began to vibrate against his hip. A low, insistent hum that seemed to resonate within his very bones. It wasn't just a vibration. It was a subtle, physical pull, tugging him back, subtly altering his sense of direction. Then, unsettling visions began to intrude upon his waking world. In the clear light of day, he saw fleeting, ghostly images of the crumbling temple, of the violent acts from his dreams, superimposed over the familiar landscape. A flock of birds would suddenly scatter, revealing for a split second a blood-stained altar where the ground should be. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, making escape feel impossible, as if the oath was already manifesting its power beyond the confines of his sleep. He tried a different direction, heading towards the open plains, but even there, the forbidden forest, his familiar domain, seemed to actively conspire against him. Paths he knew well subtly shifted, leading him in gentle, almost imperceptible curves back towards the ominous woods. The trees, once his allies, now felt like silent, guiding sentinels, their ancient branches pointing him towards the very place he sought to avoid. He would walk for hours, convinced he was heading away, only to find himself inexplicably closer to the forest's edge, the tablet's hum growing stronger, more insistent. With each failed attempt to escape, a dawning, terrifying realization solidified within Kaelen. He couldn't run. The oath had truly bound him, its ancient power weaving itself into the fabric of his existence. The dreams, the visions, the forest's subtle guidance, all pointed to one inescapable truth. The only path forward, the only way to potentially break free, was to face the ancient temple, to confront the very source of his torment. His decision was not born of courage, but of a desperate, weary resignation. Running was no longer an option. The fight, terrifying and uncertain as it was his only remaining choice. Part 5. The Last Memoir. Kaelen. Guided by the tablet's relentless pull and Lyra's cryptic advice, began his perilous journey into the forbidden forest. The woods, once a place of quiet familiarity, now felt charged with an ancient, watchful energy, its paths seeming to twist and turn, leading him deeper into its heart, towards the hidden, crumbling ancient temple that had haunted his every dream. The tablet, now clutched tightly in his hand, pulsed with a steady, insistent glow, a compass to his terrifying destiny. He finally located it, a structure half swallowed by time and foliage, its stone pillars broken like ancient teeth, its altars stained with the echoes of forgotten rituals. He stepped inside, and the air grew heavy, thick with the weight of centuries of forgotten violence. The dreams, which had plagued him nightly, manifested with an overwhelming intensity. He saw the figures, heard the cries, felt the phantom impact of blows. But this time, he resisted. He was not a participant. He was a witness. He was the last memoir bearer, and his role was not to reenact the past, but to understand it. As he moved through the temple's decaying chambers, guided by the tablet's increasing luminescence, he discovered the true purpose of the oath. It was not a command to kill, but a record, a chilling memoir of a past cataclysm, a devastating cycle of violence that had nearly consumed the world in a forgotten dark age. The oath was a warning, a desperate plea from the past, meant to prevent its recurrence. In a climactic moment, Kaelen reached the temple's central altar, a massive, cracked, stone slab etched with the same symbols that adorned the tablet. He understood. His role was to face the memoirs, to fully comprehend the ancient violence, and by doing so, to break the cycle. With a surge of newfound resolve, he placed the glowing tablet onto the altar. A blinding flash of light erupted, followed by a resonant hum that vibrated through the very foundations of the temple. The visions intensified, showing him the full horror of the Dark Age, the motivations behind the violence, and the ultimate, devastating consequences. But as he witnessed, he also felt a profound sense of release. He was not succumbing. He was understanding. He was not participating. He was ending. As the light faded, the tablet's power subsided, its glow dimming to a faint pulse. The dreams which had tormented him for weeks ceased. Kaelen emerged from the temple, exhausted but free, the weight of the oath lifted from his shoulders. He was a changed man, no longer just a forest guard, but a bearer of ancient knowledge, free from the burden of the oath's violence. His return to the village was quiet, but the villagers sensed a difference in him, a newfound strength and wisdom. The future of the world, subtly altered by his choice, now rested on a less precarious precipice. The ancient oath had found its last bearer, and he had chosen not to repeat history, but to learn from it, ensuring that the Dark Age would remain a memoir and not a prophecy.